All right, everybody. Hope we are having a wonderful Friday. It is going to be a hot weekend ahead. I hope everyone is prepared for that. It is going to be, again, a hot weekend. It's already been a hot week so far. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube right now. So let's talk about this heat. And if anyone has any weekend plans that they're looking for a quick forecast on, definitely let us know. We will absolutely give a personalized forecast for you as we head into the weekend. So thanks for joining us on this Friday. And again, we have our Facebook comments up. We have our YouTube comments up. So if you do have any plans or any thoughts or just want to get into the conversation, let us know and we'll get you right in here. Overall, it's going to be hot. Let's just take a look at this forecast. I feel like the numbers really speak for themselves. We are going to be seeing those hot conditions, and this isn't even what it's going to feel like. It is going to be feeling like triple digits as we take a look at your Saturday and Sunday afternoon. So folks, I hope you are ready for this. That sunshine is going to be blaring out there, and those temperatures are already going to be hot. We're talking about temperatures all across Central Florida tomorrow in the mid 90s. That's not totally unusual, but to happen for so long and have multiple 90-degree days above average so many times in a row already in the month of May, definitely something to talk about for sure. And with that sunshine is going to be intense. I was outside earlier on today and my shoulders got a little bit pink just in the about 20 minutes I was out there. So make sure you're wearing your sunscreen, make sure you're hydrating, because those are the two main lessons that I absolutely should have done today. And I didn't, and now I have a sunburn. So definitely learn from my mistakes on this Friday headed into the weekend. So overall, taking a look at your weekend weather, let's break it all down. It is going to be 97 degrees both Saturday and Sunday. And with that UV index is really going to make things sizzle out there. And really by what I mean sizzle, just look at what it's going to feel like. It is obnoxiously hot out there. So as you do take a look, this is what it's going to be like all day tomorrow. Temperature starting off throughout the low 70s. Things are quickly going to warm up into the mid 90s as we take a look at the afternoon. But take a look, because of that sunshine being so intense, really what it's going to feel like for us here in Orlando, especially along the beaches, it's going to feel like triple digits. So it is really going to be rip-roaring hot out there. So just make sure you are taking the proper heat precautions, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Let me pull up our YouTube comments, see how we're doing over there. Nobody yet, but again, feel free to comment and get in on the conversation. Well, if I see any questions popping up in the comments, either on YouTube or on Facebook, we'll definitely get you into the conversation for sure. So overall, what we're seeing right now is, again, just that extremely strong sunshine, but also what we're seeing is really no rain in sight. This isn't necessarily like your typical dry spell of what we normally see for the first 3 months of the year when we're getting out of that wet season. We're not looking at any rain, but with those temperatures, we're going to dry out a lot quicker than you think. Luckily, though, that rain from last weekend and on Monday really saved us. Taking a look at the drought monitor, so parts of our region are no longer in that extreme drought risk. Now we're still seeing those severe drought risks, definitely something to talk about, but they weren't as extreme as they were last week. This graphic updates every Thursday, so we get it about once a week where we see this new drought conditions all across Central Florida. And right now, especially where we were seeing that intense red last week, we're now starting to see that mild out a little bit from the villages all the way to Daytona Beach. So really, that's what we're going to be continuing to see, but I have a feeling that these are once again going to get worse before they do start to get better once we start to see those daily thunderstorms pop up across the peninsula. So overall, taking a look, even though we are seeing that rain finally starting to fall, we had a good amount of rain on Monday and especially last Saturday and Sunday all across the region. Much needed rain out there for sure. And even though pretty much region wide we saw all of that rain, we're still seeing some burn bans across the region. So just make sure you are checking with your local fire officials to make sure your county is not under a burn ban. Right now we have Lake County, Osceola County, and Pasco County under burn ban. So just make sure, again, if you are in these regions, no outdoor burning whatsoever. Grilling in enclosed fireplaces like a fire pit, that's okay, but any brush burning, especially in Hillsborough and Pinellas County as well, that is not allowed. So overall, again, if you are planning on doing any yard work, that was going to be my plan a couple weeks ago, but overall we are going to be continuing to see those burn bans still in place, even though we are starting to get that much needed rain finally across the region. So now let's actually talk about what's in store for your Saturday. Let's start there, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that big picture. Overall, for your forecast highs, it's going to be sizzling tomorrow, especially here in Orlando. We are looking at a high of 97 degrees. What? That is crazy for the month of May. Again, not totally out of the question, but still, it's definitely unusual to be so high above average, because we're running about 10 degrees above average for this time of year. Normal high is about 88 degrees. And so to be running 10 degrees over average in May, that's crazy. We're really going to start to see those temperatures really sizzle as we take a look at June as well. So this is a nice little appetizer and a nice little palate cleanser of what we're going to be in for the summertime. So really, I love ice cream. I know this is probably a little bit off topic, but that is probably one of my favorite ways to beat the heat. Also headed to the beach. I'm more of a pool person, but beach is definitely okay. But overall, ice cream for sure, one of my favorite ways. So for ice cream, we're gonna make an ice cream melter. So this is the ice cream melting meter, and what we're going to be seeing with this is that, especially with those high temperatures that we're going to be seeing all weekend long, if you are planning on getting some ice cream this weekend in order to cool down a little bit, you're definitely going to want to eat this very quickly. We are going to be seeing that ice cream melt very quickly if you are planning on heading to get some ice cream over this weekend. But again, with that, those temperatures are already going to be hot, but it's going to only feel even warmer as we take out the more of the UV index, and accounting that, it's going to be feeling like triple digits all weekend long. We'll get to your 7-day in a little bit, but I do want to talk about the pattern that we're in and why we are seeing such a heat wave right now, and then we'll get into your beach forecast. And I know a lot of folks are headed to Rockville as well. I was in Daytona Beach earlier on today, and it was packed, but a lot of people definitely were a little bit woozy in the heat. So just make sure you are not only staying hydrated, but finding that shade if you are planning on heading to Rockville this weekend at the Daytona International Speedway. So this is the big picture pattern of what we're seeing right here. What we're seeing at the moment is a heat dome over the Gulf. So this heat dome is a big area of high pressure, and you can see this right here. This is basically encompassing southern Texas, Mexico, all the way up through Louisiana, and areas across Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, and of course Florida. We can feel the heat out there right now. So this heat is going to stay as long as this pattern is in play, and really we are holding this pattern well into next week. So I hope you like the heat, because really it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So what we're seeing with this big picture pattern is this heat dome right here, and this is really just going to sit and spin at least for the next 4 days. We are possibly seeing a little bit of movement in the pattern as we take a look at about Thursday, but really what we're seeing right now is this heat dome just staying here. So this is only going to intensify the heat as we take a look ahead into next week. So this is the jet stream. This is basically looking high up in the atmosphere of where you usually fly a plane. And so what we see as well, including the heat dome, is this little area of cool air that's actually bringing some snow into the Rockies. So this is going to continue to bring much cooler air across the western part of the country. But as this continues to move eastward, because we're seeing this jet stream kind of dip up and being forced in between this low and high pressure, it's going to cause a lot of severe weather, especially across the Midwest. So as we actually take a look, this is our national radar right now. Give me one moment right here. Let's actually zoom out and take a big picture look of what we can see. And I'm going to actually pop on a couple more of those warnings. This is going to be looking a little crazy at the moment, so bear with me. We're going to be seeing not only severe thunderstorm watches, but we also have tornado watches in effect pretty much all through the state of Kentucky. So right here, again, you can see these little specks of blue through Colorado and Utah. And this is what's going to create a little bit of snow. So we have all of this cooler air over on this side of the country. And then with this heat dome right here, nothing's really happening. So really what is going on in the atmosphere is all of this severe weather is sparking up because that air is kind of forced in between the low pressure and the high pressure. And that's what's sparking up all of this severe weather across the Midwest. And this is about 7 days worth of severe weather just happening over and over and over again, especially hammering in areas through Tornado Alley. So this is what we're seeing right now. Let's make this map a little bit easier to read, but this is just to show you all of the severe weather warnings that are happening out there right now. And as we take a couple of these off to make it a little bit easier to read, in areas across Illinois, now through Indianapolis, Indiana, and areas especially across Kentucky, moving into northern Tennessee, this is what we're going to continue to see, and it's just going to be multiple rounds of this. I think they're on 7 days straight of severe weather across this area, so this is definitely a hard hammering storm system, especially for the Midwest. So getting kind of back on topic, more focusing in a little bit more local, with this heat dome that's really just sitting and spinning over Florida. We can see right here, this is exactly where we saw that severe weather really pop up. And so we see the warm, hot weather down here in the south, cooler weather in the west, but areas especially across the Midwest, this is where we're seeing all of that weather really pop up. So getting back to more of the local forecast for us here, there's a lot of stuff happening this weekend. I can barely keep track of all the events. And again, we mentioned that this pattern is going to be holding at least for the next 5 days out. So as we do take a look at our afternoon highs for the next 5 days, we're basically going to be in the 90s straight. So no real relief anytime soon, but it is on the way. So as we do take a look, let's actually focus on your beach forecast first, because this is going to be setting up for a really nice beach weekend. And even if you want to possibly get into surfing as well, Brooks was talking to me about that when we were shooting our hurricane special yesterday. So possibly taking surfing lessons soon. But if you are planning on taking surfing lessons or are interested in starting surfing, it's actually going to be a really nice pattern just for beginners if you are looking to take up that hobby. So those wave heights going to be between 2 and 4 feet. That wave period between 7 and 10 seconds. That's where we're going to be seeing how often those waves start to crash upon the shore. And that water temperature, I had a couple of comments last week that I was a wimp because the ocean temperature was in the low 60s. But now that that water is warmed up to the mid 70s, that's much more my temperature for sure. Taking a look at the rip current risk as well, that is even calmed down. Those rip current risks are going to stay on the moderate side as we take a look at the next couple of days. But overall, beach weekend, pretty perfect with that. We're looking at a high temperature of 94 in Daytona Beach. Winds, nothing crazy, so we're not going to be seeing that intense sea breeze that we normally see during the summertime. And with that, we're only going to be seeing about 15 mile per hour winds taking a look at tomorrow. Now, if you do have beach plans on Sunday, pretty much a similar story. Little bit cooler along the coastline, but nothing really too different. Rip current risk is going to be the same. Again, wave period and wave height is going to be the same. So looking at about 2 to 4 foot waves. Again, that wave period of how often they come into shore, somewhere between 7 and 10 seconds. And that water also going to be in the mid 70s. But really, these temperatures are very misleading because not only are we going to see those temperatures throughout the low and mid 90s along the coastline, it's going to be hot. And that is really due to the UV index. We talked about how it's already extreme, and just to really put that into perspective and hammer it home, this is on a scale of 0 to I think 12 or 13. It might go to 15, but anything over 11 is extremely dangerous. And even if you're out in the sun for about 15 minutes, it allows you to burn just so quickly. And again, I'm a perfect example of that. I was outside for about 20 minutes, and my shoulders definitely got a little pink of just staying out in the sun for that short amount of time. So sun protection is super important going into the next couple of days, because that sunshine, those temperatures are going from the low 90s and feeling like the triple digits, just to put into perspective of how intense that sunshine really is. So over the next couple of days, make sure you're wearing that sunscreen, making sure you're staying hydrated, have the hat, have the sunglasses, anything that you can do in order to protect yourself from the sun, go do it, because that is just going to be so helpful, and you won't sunburn. So that's even better, and you can enjoy the rest of your lovely weekend that's on tap. So more focusing in on the UV index and back focusing in on Daytona, I had a lot of folks come up to me today while I was out in the Daytona Beach area, is if they are going to see any relief from the heat this weekend as Rockville continues. Welcome to Rockville, the largest North American rock festival. It is amazing, and it was packed there today, and I think it's only going to get more packed as we take a look at the weekend. So overall, very hot, very sunny. The good news is that the Welcome to Rockville venue is going to be allowing any empty water bottles as well as camelbacks, those hiking backpacks that you wear, and they actually have like a water tank in a straw, so you are allowed to bring that in empty and refill it at any of the stations that are around the Daytona International Speedway. So that's good, making sure you're staying hydrated. There are cooling areas as well as some shaded areas as well, so making sure you're taking advantage of that. Listen to your body if you're headed out there, because this is just really intense heat, and heat exhaustion can set in really, really quickly. So just make sure you're doing everything you can in order to stay safe in the heat. Which, speaking of which, as we do take a look at a little bit more of that heat safety, this is what it's going to be feeling like. So we'll talk about heat safety in a second, but just to prepare you of what we're going to be in for, that sunshine and those temperatures only going to amp up and get more intense as we take a look at the next 5 days. So this is what it's going to be feeling like. Again, temperature is going to be throughout the upper 90s for the next 5 days, and it's going to be feeling like 100 degrees tomorrow, 101 degrees on Sunday, 103 on Monday, 104 on Tuesday, and then we're going to see a little bit of a pattern change, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But overall, on Wednesday, we're going to see a little bit of that cooler air, and by cooler air, I really mean just a little less hot, as we take a look at the end of the work week. So this is what it's going to be feeling like for the next couple of days. So with that being said, let's get you safe from the heat, because again, this is just intense heat, and this is probably the worst that we're going to feel it, because again, not only is it hot, it's humid, but that UV index is so strong as well. That heat exhaustion can just sneak up on you immediately, and really we have no clouds in the sky. Usually in the summertime that sunshine is a little bit filtered, but we don't even have any clouds to help us out for the next couple of days. So a little bit of heat safety for you. Limit your time outdoors. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water. I have Gatorade. I have 2 water bottles back here. So just make sure you are doing the same. Drink plenty of water, plenty of liquids. And just make sure you're also wearing light and loose fitting clothing. Light is in lightweight, but also light colored as well. Light reflects off of lighter colored clothing, so it actually allows the heat to not necessarily be absorbed, so you actually stay cooler if you're wearing light colored clothing as well as some lightweight clothing as well. Make sure it's also loose fitting, so you have a little bit more of that ventilation, allowing your sweat to kind of just happen. That allows you to cool down a little bit more as well. And reapplying that sunscreen. This is something that I always forget, so make sure you are doing that for sure. And also, this goes for any work. If you're thinking on possibly taking a walk out early tomorrow morning, the best time to do it is either early in the morning before 10 a.m. or later on in the evening after 6 p.m. Really between 10 and 5 p.m. Really what we're going to be seeing is just that sunshine really beating down. So if you do plan on doing any strenuous activity, really doing that yard work, taking the dog for a long walk, making sure you're doing that either really early or really late in the day. And that's actually a really good segue, because not only do we need to keep ourselves safe from the heat, we have to keep your furry friends safe from the heat as well. And my dog Honey, I took her for a walk very early on this morning, but even at about 11 a.m., the pavement was just so hot. So something that you can do in order to make sure your pets are staying safe from the heat as well is that if you're taking them out for a walk, if you put your hand on the pavement and you can't keep your hand on there for longer than 5 seconds, it's going to be too hot for your little dog's paws as well, or your cat's paws. So just make sure you're watching out for hot pavement. And if you are going out between the hours of about 11 a.m. and 5 p.m., making sure your animals are walking on the grass as much as possible. It's a little bit cooler for their little paws. Exercise your pets during the cool hours of the day, making sure they are staying hydrated. Make sure you're staying hydrated with clean and cool water. That's a big one. And I feel like this is pretty much self-explanatory, but I like to take my dog on a lot of places, but never leave your pets in a hot car, especially during this time of year. A car can get so hot so quickly, so just make sure you're never leaving your pets in your hot car. So with that, for the next couple of days, let's actually get into your forecast. We're forecasting minimal clouds, which is why that UV index is so high. But through the rest of the overnight tonight, we're pretty much under a cloudless sky. Headed into tomorrow, a couple of clouds out there in the morning, but those burn off very quickly. And even as we take a look at tomorrow afternoon, it's cloudless. A couple of clouds trying to sneak their way in the evening, but then we're pretty much rinse and repeat on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You get the picture. So overall, as we take a look at your 7-day forecast, and we'll do one last check of the comments. Here's your 7-day forecast of what you can expect. Little bit of a pattern change. We might have a cold front trying to sneak its way in on Thursday, but this is why I said less warm air, less hot air, because look at this. Temperatures 97, 97, 97, 97 across the board until Wednesday. And then we go down to the low 90s. So yes, it will feel refreshing for sure, but this isn't a big cool down of what we normally expect when we have a cold front really kick in. So that's what we see right here is this 92, a cold front trying to sneak in. This is most likely going to bring in some clouds, maybe spark up a couple of storms. But once that day gets a little bit closer, right now we're pinpointing for Thursday, but once it gets a little bit closer, we'll definitely let you know. Taking a look at Friday as well, seeing those temperatures finally start to cool down and we're back in the upper 80s, which I feel crazy saying that the upper 80s is quote unquote cool. Yeah, so we're definitely in for a hot week, and finally once we see that little bit of relief by the late work week, things should be feeling a lot better. Looks like Facebook, we don't have any comments right there, but also on YouTube, hi Metune. Thanks for watching. Yes, hot like Indiana out there for sure. It is really warm out there in the Midwest. So it's going to continue to stay warm here in Central Florida and pretty much all across the Southeast as we take a look at the next 7 days. So stay safe from the heat, making sure you're staying hydrated, reapplying that sunscreen. Enjoy the beautiful weekend that we have on tap. But again, listen to your body, making sure you are staying safe from the heat and don't let that heat exhaustion set in. Take it easy this weekend. Enjoy that beautiful sunshine that we have here in Central Florida. Have a great night, everybody.